A lesson in judgment. Marcus Chen stepped out of his silver and yellow Rolls-Royce on a quiet Saturday afternoon in Maplewood Heights. The Georgia sun hung heavy in the July sky as he loosened his navy blazer. Home at last. At 42 years old, Marcus had earned every dollar that paid for this car and this house. 15 years building his investment firm from a basement office to 3 floors downtown. 200 employees who trusted his vision. A wife and daughter who made every long day worth it. The $380,000 Rolls-Royce gleamed in his driveway. Marcus ran his hand along the hood before heading toward his front door. He didn't notice the man watching from across the street. Robert Sullivan had lived at 47 Oakwood Drive for 28 years. 71 years old now, retired postal worker. He knew every car on this block, every routine, every face that belonged. This car did not belong. This man did not belong. Robert reached for his phone. His fingers moved slowly but with absolute certainty. He dialed 911. Yes, hello. I need to report a suspicious person. Black male, early 40s, just pulled an expensive sports car into 52 Oakwood. That car is definitely not his. You should send someone right away. The dispatcher asked questions. Robert answered with growing impatience. I've lived here 28 years. I know what doesn't fit. Just send someone, please. He hung up feeling righteous, feeling protective, feeling like he'd done his duty. But Robert Sullivan didn't stop there. He called his neighbor Frank Morrison 2 doors down. Frank was 63, retired banker, always reliable. Frank, look outside. That expensive car at number 52. The black guy getting out. Something's not right. I already called the police, but you should call too. Frank peered through his window, saw what Robert saw, made his own assumptions. I'll call right now. 2 calls. 2 concerned neighbors. 2 men absolutely certain they were protecting their community. Inside his home, Marcus was texting his wife, Linda. Made it home safe. Going to rest before dinner. Then he heard the sirens, multiple cars, fast approach. He walked to his front window and his stomach dropped. 3 police cruisers, 5 officers, hands near weapons. Marcus had lived this moment in his mind 1,000 times. Every black man in America has. He opened his front door slowly, hands visible, voice calm. Officers, is there a problem? Sir, we received calls about a stolen vehicle. We need to see identification and proof this car belongs to you. Marcus nodded slowly. Of course. My wallet is in my back pocket. I'm going to reach for it very slowly. Across the street, Robert Sullivan watched, arms crossed, satisfied, waiting for validation. Frank Morrison stood on his lawn, phone still in hand. Recording now, just in case. A woman named Patricia from down the street had appeared, 62 years old, real estate agent, always friendly. Today her face showed only suspicion. I've lived here 9 years, she called out. I've never seen that car before. Something's definitely wrong. Marcus kept his hands steady as he showed his driver's license, his vehicle registration, his house deed. The lead officer was Captain James Rivera, 55 years old, 29 years on the force. He looked at the documents, looked at Marcus, looked at the house number. His expression changed completely. Mr. Chen, Marcus Chen from Chen Investment Group? Marcus nodded carefully. Captain Rivera's shoulders dropped. He turned to his officers. Stand down. Everyone stand down right now. He turned back to Marcus. Sir, I am deeply sorry. We were responding to calls, but this is clearly your home and your vehicle. Robert Sullivan felt something shift in his chest, something cold and heavy. Captain Rivera walked across the street, directly to Robert. His voice carried clearly in the quiet afternoon. Sir, do you know who you just called the police on? Robert's mouth opened, but nothing came out. That's Marcus Chen. He's donated over $400,000 to police youth programs in this county. He sits on the board of 3 community organizations. He's lived in that house for 6 years. 6 years you've been neighbors and you didn't know his name. Robert's face went pale. Marcus spoke from his doorway, voice steady but with an edge now. Mr. Sullivan, is it? I've seen you watching me for 6 years. Never a wave, never a hello, just stares. Today you called the police because I came home to my own house. He turned to Frank. And you, Mr. Morrison, you made a second call. To confirm what exactly? That a black man couldn't possibly own something nice? Frank took a step backward, then another. Then he was walking quickly toward his house, pretending he'd never been there. Patricia had already disappeared down the street. Captain Rivera addressed the officers. "Clear the scene. And gentlemen, remember this moment. Remember what assumptions cost." The police cars pulled away. Robert Sullivan stood alone on his perfect lawn. The conviction he'd felt 15 minutes ago had turned to something else, something that felt like shame, but he wasn't ready to call it that yet. He walked back to his house. His wife Eleanor met him at the door. "Robert, what happened? Why were police at the Chen's house?" "The Chen's?" "Yes, Robert. Marcus and Linda Chen. They've lived there for years. He runs that investment firm downtown. She teaches at Riverside Elementary." "Surely you've met them." Robert realized he'd never asked, never tried, never cared to know. That night Marcus told his wife what happened. Linda held his hand across the dinner table. "Are you okay?" "I'm tired, Linda. So tired of having to prove I belong in spaces I've already paid for. What do you want to do?" Marcus thought about it. "Nothing. Let it be. They revealed themselves. That's punishment enough." But the neighborhood had other ideas. By Monday morning, everyone knew what happened. Eleanor Sullivan made sure of it. She'd spent Sunday calling every friend in Maplewood Heights. Not to defend her husband, to apologize for him. Frank Morrison's wife, Catherine, did the same. 26 years of marriage, and she'd never been so ashamed. Patricia found that 3 clients had canceled appointments. Word traveled fast. Robert received an email from the neighborhood association. A meeting was being called to discuss community values and standards. His presence was requested. He didn't want to go. Eleanor made him. Wednesday evening, the community center, 47 neighbors in attendance, more than had ever shown up before. Robert and Frank sat in the back. Patricia sat alone near the door. Marcus and Linda sat in the front row. They hadn't planned to come. The association president had asked them personally. The president was Helen Torres, 68 years old, retired teacher. She'd lived in Maplewood for 40 years. "We're here tonight because something happened on our street that should never happen. 3 neighbors called police on another neighbor, not because of criminal activity, because of assumptions, because of prejudice, because somehow we've failed to build the kind of community where everyone feels they belong." She turned to Marcus. "Mr. Chen, would you like to speak?" Marcus stood slowly, looked around the room. "I moved here 6 years ago because I thought it was a good neighborhood, safe, friendly, a place to raise my daughter. What I found was silence, stairs, and last Saturday police cars in my driveway because 3 people couldn't imagine. I'd earned what I have." He paused. "I'm not angry. I'm disappointed, because I thought we were past this. I thought if you worked hard and bought a home and paid your taxes and donated to your community, that would be enough. Apparently for some of you, it will never be enough." He sat down. The room was silent. Robert Sullivan surprised himself by standing. His legs shook, but he stood. "I was wrong. I didn't know your name, Mr. Chen. I didn't know anything about you except what I assumed. And I was wrong. I'm sorry." His voice cracked. "I'm 71 years old and I should know better. I do know better. But I let fear and habit guide me instead of basic human decency." Eleanor reached up and squeezed his hand. Robert sat down. Frank stood next. "I was wrong, too. I made that second call without thinking, without asking. I just assumed. And that assumption could have turned into tragedy. I'm sorry." Patricia didn't stand, but she spoke from her seat. "I spread it on social media, made it worse. I'm deleting those posts. And I'm sorry." Helen Torres nodded. "Good. Now here's what happens next. This community will do better. We'll start with something simple. Block parties, monthly gatherings, actual conversations where we learn each other's names and stories, because ignorance is what let this happen, and we're going to fix that." Marcus appreciated the words, but he wondered if anything would really change. 3 months later he found out. It was October. Cool evening. Marcus was putting up Halloween decorations when Robert Sullivan approached, slowly, carefully. "Mr. Chen, I don't want to bother you. It's Marcus, and you're not bothering me. I wanted to say I've been thinking a lot these past months, about what I did, why I did it, and I joined a discussion group at the community center. about bias and assumptions. It's helping me see things differently. Marcus studied the older man's face, saw genuine regret there. That's good, Robert. That's really good. Would you and your family consider coming to dinner? Eleanor would love to have you, and I'd like to get to know you properly. Marcus smiled. A real smile. We'd like that. 2 weeks later, the Chens sat in the Sullivans' dining room. Eleanor had cooked pot roast. Robert told stories about his postal route days. Linda shared teaching stories. Marcus talked about his daughter's love of science. It wasn't perfect. Old habits don't disappear overnight. But it was genuine. It was human. It was a beginning. Frank and Catherine Morrison invited them over the following month. Then another neighbor. Then another. The block parties Helen Torres promised actually happened. Marcus found himself talking investments with Frank. Linda became friends with Eleanor. Slowly the neighborhood became what it should have been from the start. Patricia moved away, couldn't face what she'd done. Marcus didn't hold it against her. Everyone processes regret differently. By Christmas, Robert Sullivan had become something unexpected. A friend, not a close friend yet, but someone working honestly to be better. Someone willing to sit with his own discomfort and grow from it. On Christmas Eve, Robert brought over cookies Eleanor had baked. As Marcus accepted them, Robert said quietly, "I tell that story now you know what I did, how wrong I was. I tell it at the discussion group, to my grandchildren, because people need to hear what assumptions cost, what they almost cost." "Thank you for doing that," Marcus said. "That takes courage." "No," Robert replied. "Courage is living with grace after what I put you through. That's courage." Marcus watched the older man walk back across the street. The same street. Different everything. He thought about judgment, how easy it is, how destructive it is, how everyone deserves the chance to be known before they're assessed. He thought about redemption, not the dramatic kind, the quiet kind, the daily choice to be better than yesterday. Inside his home, the Christmas tree lights glowed warm. Linda was reading to their daughter. The house smelled like cinnamon and pine. Everything he'd worked for, everything he'd earned, everything that almost became a tragedy over a phone call and assumptions. Marcus closed the door gently. Home, finally recognized as home, not because anything changed about him, but because his neighbors finally opened their eyes to see who'd been there all along. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories about grace and growth and the courage to change. And leave a comment below. Have you ever been judged unfairly, or have you caught yourself making assumptions you later regretted? Let's talk about it. Because these conversations matter. These stories matter. And changing hearts one story at a time, that matters most of all.